Formula One drivers are the most skilled overtakers in the world. In a sport where sending it means outbraking another car from 180 miles an hour down to under 60 in around 80 meters, pulling up to 6G and placing your car perfectly to get past. So what specific techniques do they use to overtake? And what do you do if the other driver is defending as hard as possible? Well, I'm going to break down every overtaking technique these guys have in their locker.
He's always had that in his locker.
First, there are loads of ways to overtake in Formula One, but we're going to focus on wheel-to-wheel battling. Of course, you don't need me to explain a DRS move on the straight or an undercut in the pits. Here at Driver 61, we like exciting overtakes. Now, overtaking in a corner is simply carrying more speed into a corner, through a corner, or most of the time carrying more speed out of a corner. To do this, you typically need to be driving off the normal racing line, adapting your line and finding ways to make the other driver concede the place. Now, the first thing to bear in mind here is that when you do go off the racing line, your braking point will change, the grip level will change, and the racing line is often tighter. So you need to correctly anticipate the grip so you don't plow through the car in front. With that said, you're also trying to get the other driver out of position, and there are loads of different ways to do that. But each move varies with the different situations. So myself and producer Callum hopped into the sim to show you each and every one of these moves and how you can execute them well in your real or sim racing. First one is a simple outbraking maneuver, just up the inside. You get a run down the straight, pull out and brake slightly later than the car in front, allowing you to pull alongside and move up the inside. The key here is to get the car dead straight, as you need to get a lot of stopping done in as little time as possible. Now, you might be thinking, how can you possibly brake later than the other car when they're already braking as late as they can? Well, this is all about sacrificing the ideal racing line just to get in front. So let me explain. The other car is braking as late as possible, but with the aim of reaching the optimum cornering speed for overall lap time. But at this point, you only care about getting past. So you can brake later, reach a lower minimum corner speed, actually overslowing sometimes, and lose a bit of time through the corner. But we're okay with that because you're getting the move done and gaining the position. And this actually is one of the big challenges of overtaking. When you make the move, you often cost yourself and the other car time on the other cars in the race, showing why you need to be committed and clinical, only making one move and then getting on with your race. The last thing you want is to be battling and costing yourself loads of time. Here's a real example from Hamilton's GP2 days. He sets the move up and gets a great run out of Copse before getting alongside two cars and making them back out. In this sort of move, you don't need to be aggressive. The other cars are forced onto wider lines, meaning there's actually little point for them to try and fight it. The next one is a late move, one that can be used to catch a driver by surprise. It means you come from further back and give no signals that you're actually coming for an overtaking maneuver, meaning the leading driver doesn't even bother defending. Think of this as a prime Daniel Ricciardo move. So how do you do it? Well, it's just more of the same, but this is trickier as you're pushing the braking more and leaving less margin for error. You're also catching the other driver off guard, so they might not see you coming. So you turn the car slightly to pull out, but pointing the car directly at the apex. At this point, you're really racing that other car to get to the apex first. You then get there first and you can control the car on the exit. When done right, this is a great move, mainly because it looks really cool, but also because you don't give the other driver time to mount a proper defense. But it is high risk as you might have a shunt, and you also use a lot of your tires by doing it. It's actually such a shame that we don't see too many of these super late braking moves in Formula One. Using DRS often means that the attacking driver is already alongside, so it's a much more simple overtake. Here's an example of a proper late send. This is another one from when Hamilton was in GP2, and he'd spun earlier in the race, meaning he had to come flying back through the pack from the back, and it was an absolute masterclass in overtaking. Just look at this dive bomb. He sent it from absolutely miles back. Super committed and a super clean move. Now, in racing, blocking is frowned upon, defending too late or running a driver off the road. Now, it's clear that the inside is the easiest place to make an overtaking move. You're making the other driver back out. They can't turn in because you're there. So clearly, if you're in a close battle, the leading car will defend. This normally means that they will cover the inside, move their car over so the only route for you is to go around the outside. And the geometry of this means that you're immediately at a disadvantage. You have further to go, and so you have to go a lot faster than them to make it around the corner. Then there's the racing aspect, where they're normally going to beat you to the apex, so they likely have more control over the corner than you do. So what do you do? Normally, for these types of moves to work, you either need incredible levels of commitment, and this does happen, or you need a large pace advantage. Think new tyres, wet racing lines, or just a faster car. Look at this clip from a DTM race back in 2013. It's soaking wet and Wickens uses this to his advantage. Just watch the orange car. He uses a completely different line, allowing him to carry more speed on the grippier outside of the track and go all the way around the outside. And note, you can still make the other driver concede. Instead of making them concede on the entry, like when you make a move up the inside, on an outside move, you essentially take away their exit. So you can get a better run out of the corner. But what if you don't have a grip advantage? Well, you need a bit of commitment, like this one. Here's an example from Grosjean's GP2 days, and he absolutely sends it. Around the outside of two, then up the inside of another on the following corner. Absolutely incredible. He used the fact that the leading cars were all fighting each other to use an unconventional move and then go around the outside.
Oh, shut up! That's ridiculous! 3 drivers in 1.5 corners. Grosjean, I doff my cap to you, sir. That was epic.
Now, sometimes if a driver is defending, you can play a couple of tricks to still get down the inside. But this is a maximum commitment move. When a car is defending, you lose a lot of time. You're approaching the corner on the inside to cover the move off, but your racing line is severely compromised. It's like you're racing with only half the track. So you only want to defend when you absolutely have to. And when you have to, you only want to defend enough to put the attacking driver off or position them on the outside of the track. So a lot of the time, covering the middle of the track is sufficient. As an attacker, you can play off this. Stay on the racing line as late as possible and then throw the car up the inside through that extra gap that the defending driver has left. Of course, you need to be committed and you need to be great on the brakes to get the car stopped. And then use your position to block the other driver from going around the outside or switching back. But it's a move that is super useful to have in your locker. Take a look at this example from Ocon when he was in GP3. Here, Ocon manages to get around the inside early and take control of the corner, making the defending driver concede the position. But what if the defending driver has the inside fully covered? Well, it's Crofty's favourite, the switchback, or sometimes called the switcheroo. So as the leading driver defends, you send it down the outside and get the car pivoted early in the corner, meaning you can get on the throttle early and come up the inside on the exit. A classic overtaking move that capitalizes on the defending car's compromised entry, meaning they have a compromised exit. So because you've got on the throttle early, you can get a great run up the next straight. Here's another example from Hamilton's race in Turkey, and you can see here that it really comes from forcing the other driver off the racing line, so that Hamilton can take the other line. Where they've compromised their entry, battling each other, Hamilton has maximized his exit to overtake them both. But here's another thing, the switchback can actually be used also as a defense, or to repass. We're on board the Alpine hypercar at Le Mans, and the Glickenhaus sticks it up the inside, but that compromises his mid-corner. The Alpine then switches the Glickenhaus back on the exit, an absolutely great move. But I must warn you, if you're going to try this in real racing or in sim racing, there is a common defense to the switchback that can really catch you out. And it's hard to beat if the defending driver knows what they're doing. They can head into the corner and just linger on the apex. Of course, you can't brake check the driver, but there's nothing to say you need to get on the throttle as early as possible. So you can just wait half a beat and then get on the throttle. This blocks the switchback as the attacking driver can't drive through you. Just bear in mind that this is fairly high risk, and if the attacking driver doesn't realize what you're up to, you can end up in a big shunt. Right, we've gone over inside moves, outside moves, catching them off guard, and switchbacks. But what if none of that is working? Well, overtaking is a game of patience and finding the right time to commit. And one tool that you can use to force a gap is pressure. This just means being all over the driver in front, making them watch you in the mirrors, constantly showing a nose, forcing them offline, cutting them back every corner, making them drive in a way that they're not used to. Really, this means trying everything. If they defend, try the outside. If they give you the inside, go that way. You're trying to force them to make so many defensive moves that eventually they'll make a mistake and you will find a gap. Check out this example where Gordon Shedden is trying to find his way around Rob Collard in a properly close battle in the British Touring Car Championship. By the way, a great series to watch if you're into properly close, aggressive racing. Watch as Shedden just tries everything, outside, inside, into corners where you don't normally overtake, eventually braving it around the outside and taking the lead. But the best attack is just to be faster, and you'll find a way by. So what racing line should you take to be as fast as possible? Well, I made a video all about that just here. Thanks to Exeter for sponsoring this one, and I'll catch you in the next one.